and we'll go down to Duval County, where the Jacksonville Jaguars able to cover the number against Miami, just within the number as they lost at the buzzer there with the game-winning kick for the Dolphins. They're now hosting the Cleveland Browns, who, if you listen to any sort of sports talk radio, betting content, anything, you read anything about the NFL, everyone is rightfully taking apart the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson for their performance this past Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. But PJ, maybe that gives us a betting opportunity, as the Browns are now catching 3.5 in some spots, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday. Are you with the Brownies on Sunday?
Absolutely, I'm on the Brownies. Femi, yesterday we had Forrest pop up at BetMGM. I was so excited. We got a sports book about a block away from the studio. That was a hashtag run, don't walk to the book. That's what that was. When Forrest started to pop up with the Cleveland Browns, I was so excited. But, I mean, this is just a great spot to back Cleveland, right? Again, it was what we were talking about earlier, Femi. Just about any player or team that took a ton of heat in week 1, I'm likely backing them in week 2. Trevor Lawrence, we know, is a guy that really is not good under pressure. His splits when he's protected to when he's under pressure is not good. He's got to go up against Myles Garrett and that Browns defense. And Femi, spots that I love in the NFL, when you get a team that's at home and was a favorite and they lose outright, and then they're dogs on the road the following week, normally a very profitable betting trend in the NFL. It's literally the first thing I look for every single week when I'm handicapping. Who was a home favorite the previous week, goes on the road the next week and is an underdog, and it's one of the best. It's why I love betting the NFL more than any other sport. And there's a reason the Browns were +4, and now we've seen some professional money come in and hit that thing all the way down to 3. I think Cleveland wins this game outright. I think we're going to get a much different performance than we got out of the Browns in week 1. Believe me, I know Deshaun Watson sucks. I know he's awful. The John Fanta video was incredible, Femi. I don't know if you got a chance to see that. It was awesome. I know Fanta's a friend of the show. That was just all-time stuff. So the city is just, they're frustrated. They're fed up. They want to move on. They think the locker room hates them. But the Browns are going to bounce back, Femi. I really feel good about it. And look, I mean, 3 is obviously a key number. I think anything over 3 is a good bet with the Cleveland Browns. But just one of those classic spots where after 1 week, everybody's ready to abandon ship off of the Browns, off of Watson. Nobody wants to bet them anymore. I'll gladly take the Browns +3. And again, I think they're alive. I think they win this game.
No, I'm right there with you, PJ. Like, this was one that yesterday I saw it when it hit 4. I was like, this just cannot be the spread. It can never be 4. Like 2.5. Maybe you could talk me into 3 just off the basis of, wow, Deshaun Watson is like maybe the worst quarterback in the league. Maybe that can get you there. But 4 was just way too many points. Even 3.5, which there are a couple 3.5s that are still out there in the market. Like, it's just way, way, way too much respect for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a Jacksonville team that I actually do like. Like, I kind of like the under in this game as well. I haven't bet that. I've more so just bet the side. But I think Jacksonville's defense is really good. But offensively, still some of the same issues that we saw last year with that Jags offense. And if you're right, PJ, if the Browns win this game outright, it's not going to be a good Monday to be Doug Peterson. Tell you that.
No.
Already coming into the season on the hot seat, he and Trent Baalke, the general manager, jobs on the line, and the schedule is not easy early on. If they drop this game, it could be 0-4 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think that's one to kind of go ahead and look at. There'll be a lot of urgency and maybe some nerves from the Jacksonville side of things, but I'm with you with the Cleveland Browns. Some other NFL news that came out earlier today. This one out of Pittsburgh, where the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be taking on the Denver Broncos this weekend. And when we saw the schedule come out, we all thought that, hey, this could be the Russell Wilson revenge game, going back to the scene of the crime in Denver, where he ski masked, robbed them for money in broad daylight as they traded him to the Pittsburgh Steelers, or cut him, I should say, and they let him go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Steelers, came out and said that the team is preparing for Justin Fields to start against the Denver Broncos. Instead of Russell Wilson, quote, he feels better today than over the weekend. Tomlin says that, and this is a classic Tomlin quote, says they'll start with his participation, level of participation, quality of participation, and then analyze if he can protect himself and be productive. Then they'll, quote, ponder his inclusion. That is Mike Tomlin in an absolute nutshell on Russell Wilson. But in terms of the betting market, this was as high as 3.5 yesterday. Nick and I were doing our quick pick segment. I said take the points with the Denver Broncos plus 3.5 because I don't like this spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tomlin, as a road favorite, has never really been profitable. Well, we're now down to 3, and I even see a 2.5 in the market with the total as low as 36.5, as it looks like it's going to be Bo Nix against Justin Fields, making his second consecutive start for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Femi, for me, I go back and forth on what to do with the side. I think the under is the play, though, and I think it's going to be pretty popular, and it's low for a reason at 36.5. But look, Justin Fields and the Steelers really didn't do anything in the air. He threw for 156 yards. 85 of those went to George Pickens, okay? After Pickens, Femi, this is what the Steelers receiving core did. Freiermuth had 27. Warren had 13 yards receiving. Michael Pruitt had 9, Najee Harris had 9, Calvin Austin had 7. Well, now you got to go up against Pat Surtain, who's going to be on George Pickens, probably going to cancel him out. It's like where the Steelers where are they going to throw the ball? This is just going to be one of those typical like 13-10 kind of games. You got Bo Nix as a rookie quarterback going up against Mike Tomlin and a Steelers defense that I really like early on in the season because they have a lot of veterans on that team, right? They got Minka and Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, who's sensational against Atlanta. You like them early on in the season. As we get to the second half of the year and in late November and December, when they start to pile up the injuries, that's when they kind of tend to struggle. But right now, their defense looked awesome against Atlanta, Femi, and I think Surtain going up against Pickens and Denver's defense just going up against the Steelers, man, this game just feels like 13-10. Like it's going to be ugly. Both coaches are going to implore both of their quarterbacks not to make mistakes, right? I think Peyton's going to be very conservative with Bo Nix, doesn't want to make any big turnovers. I think the Steelers are going to be very run-heavy with Fields and with the running back, so it's low for a reason at 36.5. If I had to play the game, it would probably just be Steelers money line for me. Maybe parlay them with like Seahawks money line as well against New England. I think I might end up doing that this weekend, but I'm betting the under 36.5.
I was looking at some trends, and I'm not a big trends guy here, but I think this is an interesting one, just given the fact that he's been the coach since 2007. But as a road favorite, PJ, Mike Tomlin, 31-40-3 against the spread. That's a 43% cover rate, fourth worst in the NFL during that time span. Like his teams, for some reason, like he is so good as like the road underdog, or even better as a home underdog, where it's like us against the world. Nobody expects anything of us. Pretty much the situation that we saw this past Sunday when they're going into Atlanta. Falcons have all this hype with Kirk Cousins as the QB, and here we are with Justin Fields, who the Bears wanted nothing to do with, and nobody really thinks is a good quarterback. And they go in there and they have that highly motivated performance. But then when it's, Steelers have expectations, the Steelers should win this game. Bo Nix was terrible. Bo Nix threw 70 pass attempts and had 80 yards. Like he's going to be a bad quarterback, and it's not going to go well for the Denver Broncos. This is the spot to where I would never back a Mike Tomlin team. I don't like his teams when they're coming off of success. So I'm not saying that you have to bet the Denver Broncos at the number of 3. I probably would, but obviously I love the bet that I made yesterday of 3.5 with Denver, because I think this is, like you said, probably going to be one of those 13-10, 16-13 kind of games. And if that's the case, I'll at least cover. But I think that Denver is very, very live to go out and win this game outright, just because we've seen these Tomlin teams. They have the high of highs, but then they also have the low of lows. And this isn't just recently either. This is, like I said, back to 2007 when they had Ben Roethlisberger in his prime. They would go out and play someone like the Oakland Raiders at the time and then find a way to lose to them as like a 6-point favorite on the road. That's just kind of what Tomlin teams do. So I love this as a spot to, after the underdog spot last week, you fade Mike Tomlin in the favorite spot this week going up against the Denver Broncos and a Sean Payton coach team where, hey, say what you will about the offense because it looked really pedestrian against the Seahawks this past Sunday, but Sean Payton is at least a good coach. I think they'll be able to correct some things from what we saw this past Sunday and at least put a better foot forward. And also, too, failed to mention this one, this game is going to be played at altitude. And the Denver Broncos early in the season at altitude, they are really, really good, and they're tough to deal with because teams are sort of getting their legs back underneath them since nobody really plays in the preseason anymore. Training camp is not really an afterthought, but there's no more two-a-days. So conditioning is going to be a thing. So if this game is sort of playing out to where it's pretty evenly matched, maybe look to bet the Denver Broncos in the second half, given the fact that they're used to being in that altitude early on in the season. Denver typically really strong in those home openers. I think they'll be strong on Sunday. I like the Broncos to pull off the upset, PJ. The Battle of the Birds in the city of brotherly love. Falcons against the Philadelphia Eagles. 6.5 is the number, 47 the total. This was 4 prior to what we saw week 1 with the Eagles beating the Packers in Sao Paulo. And then you had Kirk Cousins looking like a statue trying to play quarterback against TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers. PJ, are you brave enough to back one-legged Kirk Cousins in primetime Monday night against the Philadelphia Eagles?
I sure am, Femi. I'm, again, in no rush, though, to bet this game. I'm in no rush because it is a Monday, and I think we're just going to continue to see Eagles money pour in and pour in. I think Philly's closing as at least a 7-point favorite. We might even get a 7.5 in this game. I don't think it would get to that point, but I do think we're going to get a 7 with the Eagles. Like you said, I mean, Cousins is on one leg. We all know his history on Monday Night Football and how much he struggles. He's on the road. Like, how could you possibly like Atlanta in this spot? But I like the desperation with the Falcons, Femi, because they do have Kansas City next week, right? So it's like, I mean, they're looking at, we got to win one of these games. We got to try and beat, because we're really quick. We could be staring 0-3 in the face. But again, Atlanta was favored at home last week. Now we're getting them on the road as an underdog. This was a team that was heavily favored to win the NFC South. A lot of people like the Falcons coming into the season. And after what they look like against the Steelers, it's like now nobody wants them against Philadelphia. So again, Monday Night Football, no rush to bet it. The Eagles are going to continue to take bets and continue to take money, but definitely going to be on the Falcons plus the points.
Yeah, this is one where I don't know if I can get there with you, just because I do have concerns about the health of Kirk Cousins in this game. And it doesn't seem like they're going to bench him, like play Michael Penix. I don't think they want to create some sort of controversy when there isn't one that needs to be created. But I'm just still like, is it maybe going to be a few more weeks before we actually see the Kirk Cousins that we've grown accustomed to seeing, where he has at least a little bit more mobility? It's a tricky spot going out there to Philadelphia in primetime. That crowd, you're giving to give them all the way to like 8:15 Eastern time to get liquored up and get hydrated and I feel like it's going to be a raucous environment for the Atlanta Falcons going into that spot, to where maybe that's why it provides a little bit of value, and that's why this thing has been bet all the way out to 6.5. Perhaps maybe it gets to 7, but for me at least, I think I'm going to hang out on the sidelines in this game. Maybe it could be a live betting opportunity. If Kirk Cousins looks good and he can move around, maybe you bet the Falcons. If he looks like a statue, maybe you lay an even worse number with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's kind of how I see this game between the Falcons and the Eagles coming up next Monday night in the city of brotherly love.